वंदामी बनते requesting for Shama Yachana and Shil Yachana.
Please.
Okas Vandami Bante Dvaratayena Katam Sabam Aparadham Khamatu Me Bante Dutiyamti Okas Vandami Bante Dvaratayena Katam Sabam Aparadham Khamatu Me Bante Tatyamti Okas Vandami Bante Dvaratayena Katam Sabam Aparadham Khamatu Me Bante.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Now I ask for Ashtashil Uposat.
Please.
Okas Aham Bante Ti Saranena Saha Uposat Ashtashil Dhammang Yachami Anutva Shilang Dete Bante. Shilang Dhammangate Tatuka Sambante Ti Saranena Sa Uposata Ashtashilang Dhammang Yacha Anugankatva Shilang Detame Bante.
Sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Breaking. Clear.
Is that me that's breaking up?
Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang
Dutiyampi buddhang.
Saranami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang Gacchami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Surameraya majjapamadatthana Veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Suramerayamachchapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Vikalabhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Nacha gita vadita visukadasana mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanatana veramani sikkhapada samadhiyami.
Nachcha gita vadita mala gandha vilepana dharana mandana vibhushana atthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Ucha sayana maha sayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Uchchasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Imani attasika padani samadhiyami. Silena sugating yanti, silena bhoga sampada, silena nibuting yanti tasma silang visodhaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bhante, I request you and I want to welcome you for giving a Dhamma talk.
Please. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I think this evening, what we'll do is have a guided meditation. So sit meditation together for the first 10 minutes or so, and then have a 15 or 20-minute reflection on Dhamma with the theme of how to develop samadhi. And then after that, we'll open things up to question and answers. So to start, everyone can assume a comfortable but upright posture.
Bhante, can I translate for them?
Please.
सर्वांनी 10 मिनिटासाठी ध्यानासाठी बसायचं आहे एकदम कम्फर्टेबल पोझिशन मध्ये आणि त्याच्यानंतर 20 ते 25 मिनिट बंते म्हणजे धम्मप्रवचन देणार आहेत आणि त्यानंतर प्रश्न आणि उत्तरांचं सेशन राहील ज्यावेळेस तुम्हाला प्रश्न आणि उत्तर विचारायचे आहेत. तर आता पहिले तुम्ही 10 मिनिटासाठी बसायचं आहे. ओके बंते.
So those are the two things that you need to pay attention to. One is uprightness, and the other is relaxation. And this is both with the body and the mind.
Can continue Bhante.
So this evening we will be focusing on the breath. So please bring your attention anywhere in the body or to the whole body if you can experience the breath energy, the prana through the whole body. If you can experience the breath at the nose and you're used to that, then bring your attention to the tip of the nose. If you're used to experiencing the breath in the abdomen or in the chest, then bring your attention there and know every in-breath and every out-breath. And as you stay right here, knowing every in-breath and every out-breath, see if you can make your mind as sharp and alert as possible, knowing and appreciating all the details and subtleties of every in-breath and every out-breath. And please allow yourself to enjoy this process. Enjoy every in-breath physically and mentally, keeping alert with a bright mind. And every out-breath. Know every nuance, every subtlety of the breath as you let the body settle and as you let the mind settle. If and when the mind becomes unsettled, starts chasing after thoughts of future or past, and very gently but assertively just bring the mind back. The breath has been here the whole time. The breath is always here. Nothing has been lost. Just bringing awareness back. And truly, awareness never went anywhere either. Awareness is always here. The possibility for awareness. Knowing the details of every in-breath. And feeling and experiencing deeply the joy which can come from breathing, simply being here in the present moment. Re-establishing mindfulness again and again with infinite patience. This is always good work. And as the mind becomes more subtle, the breath can become more subtle. As the breath becomes more subtle, the mind becomes more subtle. And the whole process of meditation just becomes delicious. When we develop this, we can, it's almost as if drinking in the breath. And as they say in the Dhammapada, we can become like the deva who feed on bliss. Just from being right here, knowing every in-breath and every out-breath. Now, for those of you whose minds are already settled and becoming more settled, as the topic of this evening's reflections is how to develop samadhi. If you already know how to develop samadhi, I invite you to mute your speaker. For certain levels of samadhi, even hearing voices can be a thorn, can be a hindrance. But for those of you who would like to hear more reflections on how to develop samadhi, we'll shift now into a listening mode, giving background and details on what it means to develop samadhi and what you need to put in place in order to not just make the mind rested. So meditation is not simply about resting the mind and feeling calm. That's part of it. But more than rested, the aim for us is to be settled, to establish. The Thai translation of samadhi is firm establishment of mind. That is what samadhi is. It's a mind which is totally unshakable. And so how do we develop that? On one level, for people whose minds are already calm, for people who have developed parami in the past, this might be easy. You know a method, you can just tell yourself to stay with the breath or with an object or a kasina, and the mind does that. But for many others, I would say certainly many Americans, but maybe these days unskillful American ways have spread across the world, and the scatteredness and uncenteredness and agitation, which is seen everywhere in America these days, has globalized itself. So many of us need to learn about how to develop samadhi. And more than talking about specific techniques, the methods for developing samadhi, which really can be described quite simply, basically bringing the mind to an object and keeping it there. What is samadhi? Samadhi is the fruit, and mindfulness is the seed. So the practice of samadhi is really the result. What the real practice is mindfulness, keeping your mind on your object, one moment after the next, after the next, after the next, and becoming more and more nuanced in your appreciation of your object. So the techniques of samadhi, there are many. Objects of samadhi, there are many. But more fundamentally than that, we need to have a larger base. The mind needs to be large. The mind needs to be expansive and broad. The mind of samadhi needs a place to settle. And I'll be talking about two qualities which are more approachable and more practicable for many people throughout your whole day, every day. So it's very difficult for many people to remain focused on the breath throughout the day. Even monks, even very good meditators, when you interact with other people, the mind has to go out to some extent to listen to what people are saying. But the two qualities which really create and form this foundation, one is faith and the other one is joy. So saddha and pamoja. So the first quality is faith. And I would assume people coming to this talk already have some measure of faith, and maybe a very, very strong faith. And for myself, and for many people who maybe did not grow up Buddhist, the easiest formulation of what it means to have faith in Buddhism is simply the belief it is possible to abandon the unwholesome. Sakka akusalang pajahitum. It is possible to abandon the akusala. And sakka kusalang bhavetum. It is possible to develop the wholesome. Just that. That is the basis of faith in Buddhism. The basic cognitive understanding of faith in Buddhism. And so what does this have to do with samadhi, with developing the mind to be firm and steady? The answer is, one, saddha or faith is a quality which makes the mind bright, which makes the mind bright. When you recollect your own strength of faith, that gives you joy, that can give you joy. And more explicitly, more specifically, you can develop and really cultivate this belief it is possible to abandon the hindrances to jhana. It is possible to abandon the hindrances to samadhi. What are those? Those are 5. So it is possible to abandon sensual desire, desires for the past, desires for the future. It is possible to abandon ill will, anger and aversion, whether it's towards yourself or others. It is possible to abandon restlessness and worry and regret, whether it's about the past or the future or the present, thinking about this and that. It is possible to abandon such thoughts. It is possible to abandon laziness or tiredness or the mind which is unbalanced and ready to just collapse. It is possible to abandon doubt, vicikiccha. And this is a belief, but you can think about it, and there's no way to prove it one way or another until you do it for yourself, You can believe it. You can see others who've practiced and trained their mind in this way. But you really need to prove it yourself. And also the belief, it is possible to develop samadhi. It is possible for you, not just for anyone, but for you, even when your mind seems scattered and you seem all over the place and you're not able to keep the habits that you want to keep, still, you think and you believe and you can even visualize yourself sitting calmly in meditation. And the more you visualize that which may appear impossible to achieve, and the more you increase your expectation of achieving that, the more likely you are to achieve that. So imagine yourself sitting calmly, smilingly, just appreciating the present moment, appreciating your breath. And you can maybe imagine a clock behind your head, just the hours spinning by, and you're just totally content. That's what samadhi is just contentment and even bliss and pleasure, contentment with the present moment. It is possible to abandon the hindrances to samadhi, and it is possible to develop jhana in samadhi. The second quality to develop is joy, is pamoja. So what does this mean? Am I talking specifically about piti, which they say is a jhana factor? I am talking about that, but I'm talking more about just the joy of practicing the Buddha's teachings in its entirety. So the joy of keeping precepts, the joy of being generous, the joy of speaking truthfully, the joy of refraining from lying or from harsh speech, the joy of just bringing the mind back to the present moment. And this is a joy that you can tap into. This is a joy which you can know and experience in your body throughout the whole day. Just appreciating your own goodness. Right now, as you think about this, you're not hurting anyone. Totally avihingsa, totally harmless, totally in line with right intention, samma sankappa. You are practicing the path, and that is worthy of delighting in. Take joy in your own practice of the path. And this joy, the Buddha says in many discourses, this joy, pamoja, does lead to piti, or rapture, or delight. So joy or gladness leads to delight. Many people who are new to Buddhism, new to meditation, especially many Americans, we think, okay, I have learned a meditation technique. Now, when I figure out how to meditate, then I will be happy. So I learn how to meditate, and then I will be happy. That's one way of thinking. But another way of thinking, in line with the teachings of the Buddha in the Pali Canon, is when one makes the mind glad, then piti arises, rapture arises. When the mind is enraptured, when there is piti, then the body, pasade, the body becomes tranquil. When the body is tranquil, then there is sukha, there is happiness and pleasure. And when there is happiness, when there is sukha, then the mind becomes concentrated. Sukhino chittang samadhyati. The happy mind is concentrated, or even easily concentrated. So rather than thinking, when I learn how to meditate, then I will be happy, think, when I am happy, then my meditation will make progress. And how do you be happy? In just this way. You work on the steps that lead to happiness. You work on present moment gladness, appreciating all of your own goodness. Every moment, every mind moment, when you are practicing generosity, when you are keeping precepts, when you are thinking thoughts of goodwill, when you are engaging in harmlessness, these are all seeds for gladness and for rapture. So the mind that is glad, the mind that is joyful, knows pamoja, that leads to piti, leads to kaya pasadi, leads to sukha, and leads to samadhi. So for people who maybe came to this talk thinking that you would get a trick for how to make the mind concentrated, this is your trick. And you can practice it all day long. Know the mind of faith, imagine and believe, and nurture this belief. It is possible for the mind to become concentrated, not just for others, but even for you in this present moment. It is possible. Saka kusalang bhavetum. You can do this. And appreciate the joy and the delight and the rapture which comes from the simple parts, the simple ways of just being a good Buddhist. And if you do not consider yourself Buddhist, no problem. There is nothing explicitly Buddhist about generosity or about sila or about any other wholesome mind state. So you can be happy and joyful in the present moment, and the happy mind is easily concentrated. And when you live throughout the day, knowing pamoja, when your mind is glad and joyful all day, then when you sit down to meditate, the mind will settle. The mind will settle easily. And more over time as you do this and as you appreciate this. Saddha and pamoja, faith and gladness. These are tools for our practice. So I will end the formal talk there and open it up for anyone's questions.
कोणाला प्रश्न असतील तर त्यांनी विचारायचं किंवा हँड रेस करायचे. कोणाला प्रश्न आहेत का?
Vicharu sir.
Yes.
Ajahn, this is regarding experiencing nimitta. So most of our meditators meditating from last 1 year, but they are not experiencing any nimitta. So, so what is a way, or it is necessary to experiencing nimitta for deeper samadhi? Or
am I correct that your group is practicing the pawak method?
Yes,
yeah, Bante.
So I have also practiced the pawak method. Last year, I lived at a pawak monastery in Thailand for the whole year. And in the pawak system, they very much emphasize getting the nimita, specifically the light nimita at the tip of the nose. Being at the monastery and meeting some people who could easily get the nimita. Many other people, though, did not get the nimita. And in the Ajahn Chah tradition, there is not this emphasis on nimita. It was very infrequent, if at all, that Ajahn Chah would talk about needing the nimita. For people who naturally get the nimita, the mind becomes very subtle and the mind becomes very bright, and that manifests as a visual brightness at the tip of the nose. Then wonderful. You probably have affinities. You probably have a relationship in the past with developing samadhi in this way. In the Ajahn Chah tradition, the teaching is more just about solidity and making the mind settled than about getting any particular sign. I know it can happen for people who are seeking the nimita, that it actually has the reverse effect. That
Yes.
seeking.
Sorry.
So, yes, if your mind is delighting in the pawak method, then please continue. If you delight both in knowing the breath, even without a nimita, then wonderful. And if you already have a nimita, then wonderful. For people who are not yet experiencing the joy that comes from having and experiencing the nimita, then please try to enjoy the process. This is very, very important. Enjoy the process, enjoy the breath, even with no thought at all about the nimita. Think, if the nimita comes, great. If the nimita does not come, no problem. I can still enjoy the breath right here. So I think that is a very useful approach. And for many great teachers in Thailand, they have said that it is very much possible to not only achieve jhana, but to achieve awakening without necessarily having to experience the nimita. This is just a different way of teaching from the pawak teachings.
Okay, man. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
अजून कोणाला प्रश्न आहेत का?
हॅलो हॅलो
Hello.
वंदा मी म्हणते दीपक सर मराठीत बोलू का, तुम्ही ट्रान्सलेट कराल?
बोला.
सर म्हणजे काल आमच्या वाचनामध्ये काही गोष्टी आमच्या म्हणजे आम्ही बसलो असताना ना आम्ही वाचन करत असतो आणि त्यावेळेस असा एक प्रश्न उद्भवला की अलीकडे अरहंत झालेले आणि इथून मागे अरहंत होऊन गेलेले आहेत ते रूप लोकांमध्ये प्राण्यांसोबत बोलतात. तर हा प्रश्नावरती काही लोक डिबेट करत होते, उत्तर कोणाचं हो आहे कोणाचं नो आहे. अशा वेळेस काय करायचं?
तुम्हाला प्रश्न काय विचारायचा?
म्हणजे अरहंत लोक जे आहेत ते प्राण्यांशी बोलतात का अरूपवाचर भूमीमध्ये?
ओके.
रिलॅक्स. ओके
ओके.
थँक्यू.
पण ते the lady asking that can arahant talk with the animals?
Yes, some arahants have developed that ability. It's not the case that every arahant can talk to animals. You have instances in the Pali Canon, certainly, where the Buddha communicates with, seems to communicate with animals. You also have in, say, the biography of Ajahn Mun, instances of him speaking with elephants, speaking with birds. For him, he just had the abhinya, the special quality of mind that could speak to animals. So when you develop concentration, samadhi, and jhana, you can direct your mind in this way and learn the language of animals.
Unmute करा.
Nami Bande.
Hello?
Bande, can we reach in a jhana without nimitta?
In the, well, the Thai forest tradition, of which I'm a part, tends to be much less specific in the way that they talk about progress in meditation. So many teachers in the Thai forest tradition, Ajahn Chah, Ajahn Mahabua, others, they do not even use the terms jhana, and they do not talk very much about nimita. And why is this? One is that talking too much about what level of jhana one is at, or what nimita one has or does not have. One, it can make some people frustrated and thinking that they don't have it. And also, it is not a sure thing. Even if you talk to a teacher and they say, yes, you have jhana, or yes, you have a nimita, it is not necessarily the case that what they think about you is the case, and is the case that your jhana corresponds with the way the Buddha used the word jhana. And in the Pali Canon, the Buddha very rarely uses the word nimita. He does speak about jhana a lot, but so in the tradition that I come from, I know teachers who will say that it is possible to attain the jhanas without nimita. But in the pawak tradition, it is a point of doctrine. It's in their books that you have to see the nimita before you get jhana. But perhaps this is a different way of teaching, or perhaps it is just a different way of practicing, that it is possible to attain jhana without nimita. But I think in either case, don't worry about the nimita. Yeah, just appreciate whatever phase of meditation you're at. And if you can appreciate, the more you can bring gladness and joy and appreciation of the present moment, regardless of what signs appear or do not appear, then that gladness, that contentment will lead to you more likely seeing the nimita and attaining jhana.
Some more questions. Okay. Bande, how to deal with the distraction in day-to-day life which affects our meditation?
Well, one way is through meditation, of course. In the morning, starting off your day, both with a period of meditation, and it's good if you have a specific amount of time that you plan to sit every morning, but you want to choose an amount of time which is intelligent. If you have chosen a period of time which is too long for you, for where your mind is, then that can actually make you frustrated. At the end of your meditation period, you can actually feel more agitated. So pick a realistic amount of time such that when you get out of meditation, you feel refreshed, and then you will go into your day and you will be less distracted throughout the day. And as you go through your day, a number of things you can do. One, stay away from fools. Stay away from foolish people. This is very good advice. The Buddha gave it in the Mangala Sutta. So, asevana chabalanang panditanang chasevana. So stay away from fools if you can. If your children are foolish, or your family members are foolish, or if your boss is foolish, then you cannot stay away from them so much. But your coworkers who are foolish, stay away. If you do not have to interact with them and they just make your mind more distracted, stay away. And if you do that, you are practicing the Buddha's teaching. Do not do it in an angry way, but do it in a way which is kind. Just don't interact. And that will make your mind much simpler and less distracted.
One question, Bhante, that saying that Bhante, please tell about the rebirth which Lord Buddha described.
The Buddha described many realms of rebirth. So I don't know people's beliefs in this group, but for many Americans, Europeans, Australians, very skeptical, do not believe in rebirth, even if they have faith in the Buddha. They say the Buddha did not teach rebirth. It was just a belief that existed in India at the time, and he took it on as well. Or he did not really teach it, and later monks taught it. But the Pali Canon, the Buddha's teachings in the Pali Canon very much teach rebirth. The Buddha taught rebirth in lower realms. So if you act and speak and think in unbeautiful ways, akusala actions in this life, then that will incline your mind just downwards. That will incline your mind towards lower realms, such as hell realms, such as ghost realms, such as animal realms. And if you are skeptical and don't want to believe about rebirth, that's fine. You can see animalistic people. You can see people who live this life as if they were already in hell. People who have no control over their anger, people who have no control over their greed, people who have no control over their stupidity and their wrong view. That is as if one is already living in hell, or in an animal realm, or in a hungry ghost realm. The Buddha talked of rebirth in the human realm and in heaven realms, and even higher heaven realms, Brahma realms. So if you practice well in this life and keep precepts and practice generosity, then the mind goes in a good direction, and next life you'll be reborn in a higher or a happier realm. And the Buddha did say that these realms truly exist. You can be reborn in a Brahma realm and exist for numerous lifetimes. And yeah, it is possible to be reborn in these realms.
Good evening, Deepak sir.
Yes, Bola.
How are you?
I'm well, yeah.
Actually, I just want to ask you some questions about my mom. She's very positive about me. Very much positive about me. And now she is passive about your. She said me talk to you about myself. You can hear me properly?
I can. You say she is positive about you?
No, not positive, possessive.
Possessive. Okay. Okay.
Very much possessive about me. If I went out of my house, she takes lots of tension about me, lots of worry about me. I told each and every time not to take care of me, and each and every time she takes very much tension about me. She's listening to you. Just help me out, sir, please.
Okay. Well, if your mother is listening, then
yeah, she's listening. She's beside me only.
Okay. So I'll speak to both of you. So the Buddha did say Sabbe Dhamma nalang abeni vesaya. So there is no Dhamma, there is no thing which is worthy to cling to. There is no thing which is worthy to be overly possessed of. And why that is helpful is because being too possessive and being too attached, one, it makes the person who is too attached themselves, it makes them tight and brings dukkha to them, brings suffering to them. And people don't like being held onto too tightly. So it brings dukkha to others as well. That said, I trust your mother's intention. I think part of her intention
I
is
really
that,
appreciate that, sir.
yeah, she loves you, and that is why she is,
No, my thing is she's very lots of possessiveness. For 1 minute she doesn't leave for me alone.
Yeah.
And she
Well,
wants she wants to ask some question for you.
okay. Let me just say one more thing to you is,
Yeah,
so your mother's, to the extent that she is possessive in an unhelpful way, that is not good for her. But for you, you don't want to be possessive of your own aversion to
that's
your
the right thing.
mother's
That's the right thing.
possessiveness. Yeah. So you should not be attached either. Yeah.
I agree with you, sir. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And she wants to ask you some question about it.
Okay.
वंदना बनते जी.
Vandami.
Okay, fine. She's now, I told you now she's very shy about it. She can't take it.
Okay. Well,
But
I
she
wish you
listens
both.
to your lecture each and every day.
Oh, okay.
I would like to join your community. I really appreciate for that. I would like to listen your lecture too.
Okay. Good.
No further question. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am putting the address for the monastery. I am starting a monastery in Seattle, and
Cool.
it's called Clear Mountain Monastery, and we have a YouTube channel if anyone wants to join in for our conversations.
But is it okay to take another questions?
Yeah, maybe just one more. I have to go to morning meditation here.
Okay. Sorry. There is a question: how to be disciplined throughout the day?
Very good question, and it can be very difficult for many people. But there are tricks and there are ways to make yourself more disciplined. One thing which the Buddha praised is what he called kalanyu. So being anyu, one who knows, kala, time. So being someone who is intelligent about the way that you spend your time. And one thing he also praised is also being atanyu. So knowing yourself. So one thing you should know about yourself is, are you a morning person or an evening person? Is your mind most bright in the morning or the evening? And when you know that about yourself, then organize your day to maximize the time that you can spend at that time of the day. If you can organize your schedule, then maximize when your mind is at its most clear. If you are a morning person, then get up as early as possible. If you are an evening person, then stay up and let your mind remain bright during that time. One other thing which is helpful for organizing your day is, as I mentioned earlier, to avoid fools. Yeah, don't associate with foolish people. Foolish people will suck your time away. They will create difficulties for you and for your daily schedule. So to the extent that you can organize your day to avoid foolish people, then you will have more time for your own wholesome practices. and more time to develop the mind. So yeah, that is just a few things. Also, there are modern inventions which do help in time management. Having a calendar, whether it's a written calendar or a online calendar, Google Calendar, these can really help to organize your day. There are apps. There's an app called Trello, many apps and ways of tracking your time to know how you waste it. So you need to track and understand how you waste your time if you want to know how to not waste your time. So, and then, yeah, in the morning or in the evening, plan your day or plan your next day and take joy in that. Yeah, hopefully everything that you're doing is for a good purpose. Even if you are at a job where maybe it's not the best job in the world, still, hopefully part of your intention in working at that job is to make enough money for yourself and for your family that you can grow in wholesome dhammas. This should be your overarching, your main intention in everything that you do throughout the day. I will plan my mornings so that I can increase in wholesome dhammas, kusala dhammas, and decrease akusala dhammas. I will plan the middle of my day so that I can increase in my generosity and my precepts and my mind development and my practice of loving kindness, and decrease my anger and selfishness. And I will organize my evenings and nights so that I get enough sleep and can develop every beautiful, every subha, every kusala and wholesome sobhana mind state as I can, and to avoid every ugly and unbeautiful mind state. So I think that might be the end of the talk. I have to go sit with some people here, but I very much appreciate seeing so many people tune in to a Dhamma talk on a Saturday evening. You are very serious Dhamma practitioners, and take joy and grow in faith. And then your path, whether or not you get your nimita, your life will be happy. And that is really, and a happy mind is easily concentrated. Sukhino chittang samadhyati. So I wish everyone to have a good evening and a good rest of your day, evening, and your week, and your month, and your year. And please practice well for the rest of your life.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Bhante, for coming.
It's my pleasure.
And the blessings.
Yes. Yata varivaha pura paripurente sagarang evameva ito dinam petanam upakapati ichitam patitam tumham kipameva samijatu sabe purantu sankapa chando panaraso yatha mani jyotiraso yatha sabitiyo vivajantu sabarogo vinasatu mate bhavadvantarayo sukhe dekayuko bhava abhivadana sile sanichang buddha pachayino chataro dhamma vadante ayu vano sukhang balang.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante, again.
Radhu Anumodana.